right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. There's so many things about us as human beings that we carry with us. You carry with you your identity of what sex you are, what race you are, if you're big or not big. I'm big, and so I've always identified with the, not that identify, that's probably a bad way to say it, but you're always self-conscious when you meet people, they're going to say, oh my gosh, you are a big guy, right? Mm-hmm. Paul Williams, the songwriter, used to always have, I don't know if an issue with it, but he would, he knew to expect people to say something about it. But the one thing that, while that's never going to probably change, I remember one time, Robin, I said to you, I came out from a grocery store, and I came down to you, I said, oh my gosh, the cashier told me a funny joke, let me tell you the joke. And the cashier was a black lady, and I said she was a black lady. And then later I said to you, I wonder why I felt it important to tell you that she was a black lady. Why didn't I just tell you the cashier told me a joke and here's the joke?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it was kind of an eye-opener for my own self, not that I was being judgmental, but certain things maybe about the way we say things, and And then when it comes in the new day and age, the Martin Luther King Jr. dream that we would be judged by the content of our character really applies to our sexuality as well, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And so we shouldn't be judged by those kinds of things. And maybe little by little, we're starting to become better as humanity, and I throw myself under the bus just as much as anybody else for not always being on that page. This month, National Geographic is taking a look at cultural, social, biological, and personal aspects of gender. And we have on the phone to talk about this Susan Goldberg. She's the editor-in-chief of National Geographic magazine. Good morning, Susan. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I apologize for the slightly lengthier introduction. But I think we all can sort of kind of relate to this, but not necessarily specifically about gender.
Well, gender is really arguably the first label. You were talking about labels. Gender is the first label that most of us ever get, right? Either it's a boy or it's a girl, and you go from there. So what we decided to do at National Geographic is to take a look at how that's playing out all over the world for girls, for boys, and increasingly for people who define themselves as somewhere on the gender spectrum rather than accepting that binary boy-girl label.
And what did you discover?
Well, one of the things we discovered in talking to children all over the world in 8 countries is how much girls, even in 2017, say that being a girl limits their futures. It limits their horizons and, what they think their own possibilities are. So I thought that was one thing that we discovered that was very disturbing.
Yeah, that is. Was one of the 8 countries America, USA?
Yes, so it was the U.S., Canada, Israel, the Palestinian territories, India, China, and Brazil, and Kenya. Those are the 8 countries we went to. And we talked to kids, rich kids, poor kids, city kids, country kids. I mean, we really wanted to talk to a variety of kids. And yet the girls, in different languages, using different words, too often talked about limits. I mean, this was not true of every girl, but it was true of an awful lot of them.
Mm-hmm. And that really surprises me for the United States, because every time you look around, you have people, businesses offering grants. They're offering scholarships to women, women-owned businesses. They encourage young girls in school to do a variety of career choices and things like that. And I just don't understand how come it's a problem over here when you've got everybody catering to the woman.
Well, I think that a lot of companies and individuals certainly are making an effort to help women and help women achieve all of their potential. But I do think that there are a lot of institutional impediments that still exist. We have a story in the magazine about what it's like to grow up as a girl in America and some of the pressures that girls face that boys really don't. I think it's a pretty eye-opening story.
Do you contrast the 1950s to now, or the 1850s to now? Do we contrast the way we have progressed? And I mean, obviously, maybe we have still a way to go, but it seems to me we must have come some way. The cigarette commercial used to tell me that, right?
Yes, I think so. You've come a long way, baby.
We are National Geographic, and so of course we look at history when we tell our stories. We look at science, we look at cultures, and so clearly we have come a long way. And we don't just talk about what it's like to grow up a girl. We also look at manhood and masculinity rights all over the world and look at those through a historical context. It's not, in a lot of places, it's pretty tough to be a boy too.
Yeah, I was in college up at the University of Wisconsin. I was in a calculus class, and this fellow was sitting next to me, and he was disappointed with his grade, and he got a B on the calculus test. And I said, well, that's pretty good, because this is pretty hard. He said, no, he wants to be a doctor. And back in the mid-'70s, they weren't hiring white male doctors. They would hire everybody else, except if you were a white male, you were put on the bottom of the spectrum. So that's why he had to get straight A's, and that surprised me. Nobody was treated equal, it seemed.
Well, we in this issue and on our upcoming National Geographic television show on February 6th, we look at how people are treated across the gender spectrum. And one of the things that we really find is people who identify themselves as transgender these days face a great deal of ostracism. I mean, people who are transgender are more likely to suffer domestic violence, sexual violence. They're more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely even to be at risk of suicide. So that is one of the issues that we also look at in this issue.
Gosh.
And how does that vary from country to country? Is more of a problem in one country than another?
Well, interestingly enough, there are actually some countries and some cultures that accept a third gender, if you will. And one of the stories that we do looks at Samoa. There's a people there called the Fa'afafine, and they are really a third gender. They are born men, but they act like women and are identified as women for all of their lives, and they are really treated as a third gender. So while in Western cultures we have this binary boy-girl, we look at different places around the world where there is a third gender as well.
Huh.
Oh my gosh!
And you said you also looked at Israel and Palestine and India. Is it there as well? Do they treat them differently? I mean, how is the gender issue treated in those countries?
Well, I mean, like I said, we talked to 80 children all over the world, and they really describe, what it's like to grow up as a boy and what it's like to grow up as a girl and how their lives would be different if they were somebody of the other gender. Yeah. And pretty much the boys describe, being a boy is great. They don't really want to be a girl, and too many girls did describe limits that they thought being a girl
really?
Put on them.
Was clothing ever an inch? A part of it was does clothing hold a person back?
That didn't actually come up in our story, though, about what it's like to grow up as an American girl. We didn't so much talk about clothing, but there was a large discussion of social media and the extra pressures that puts on girls to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to act a certain way. So,
and in the different countries, is it a legal thing or is it a social thing, or does it depend on the country? Are you there? Did we lose her?
No, I don't know. The lights are still on the phone.
Susan? Huh. I don't know.
The phone lights are still on. Susan?
I'm just curious about that, because in our country, we might have some social aspects to this that aren't being, that need to be. Maybe as a society we need to fix our ways, amend our ways. But I think legally we have laws in place that put everything in the right place.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. No, the lights are still on the phone.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
It's like she's still connected.
I don't know what happened.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you, Susan. I'm not hearing if you're talking, so I apologize for that. Susan Goldberg was our guest. She's the editor-in-chief of National Geographic magazine, the National Geographic's new documentary, Gender Revolution, and we don't have her to tell us when that is. Oh, here it is.
February 6th.
It's with Katie Couric, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In National Geographic magazine, and Katie Couric will premiere the new documentary exploring the personal subject of gender identity Monday, February 6th at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 Central. And the January edition of the magazine also covers the topic as well. All right, we will take a little break, and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Windy and cooler Monday with intervals of sunshine and clouds. Monday's high 72, 74. Chillier with skies clearing out, a diminishing wind as well. Monday night low 46 inland to 52 at the coast. And sunny skies quite nice out Tuesday, high 72, 74. From the Florida Weather Center.